Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
And we have author Brenda Miller on the line. Brenda, thanks for calling. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Brenda. Let's get to your background, and then we'll get to your latest book after we learn a little bit about your background. So tell us your background.
Okay, well, I was born in Camden, New Jersey, but I only lived there for about a month before my parents moved the family to Southern California. So I grew up in Southern Cal, and I went to school in Northern California. And I was trained as a journalist at first, but I didn't really enjoy journalism work, so I ended up doing a lot of different things. I worked for a coffee shop. I worked at a midwifery school, and I ended up going to get my MFA at the University of Montana because I enjoyed writing in a more creative and personal way than journalism allowed me to. And then after I got my MFA, I went on to do my PhD in creative writing at the University of Utah. And so my specialty is creative nonfiction. I write personal essays that have a memoir-type bent.
All right. I would say the best first question would be, what is pushing you forward through all of this, all these experiences, all these great achievements that you're doing? Like, what's inspiring you?
Well, I get a real thrill out of writing creative nonfiction and finding ways to understand again and again the experiences that we live through, especially in this most recent book, In Earlier Life. It's called that because I realized as I was writing these essays, I was pretty much describing all these different lives that one tends to live in one lifetime. We feel like we're living one life, but if you look back, you see, oh gosh, I was doing that in my 20s. That seems like a whole different person now. So a lot of these essays look back in that way and come to new understandings. So I think that's what keeps me writing, and also finding new forms and new ways to describe things and connect with a reader.
When you look at all of the writings that you've done, do you see them as more parts or more as a total culmination?
I think it's a combination of things. I think my writing appeals to a wide range of people because I'll write anything from a very, very short piece that can be read in a minute to a longer, very complex essay that I would call like a braided essay where there's several different strands interweaving. And then there's a form that I call the hermit crab essay, which just like a hermit crab takes on a different shell to tell its story. So, for instance, in An Earlier Life, the very last piece in the book is called We Regret to Inform You, and it's in the form of rejection notes. And so an essay like that is funny, and people can relate to it, especially writers who have all gotten those form rejection notes. So in that voice of the rejection note, I'm revealing a lot of personal experience and history.
Very interesting. Thank you.
That's a very interesting way to write, and putting all those together and having those different types of essays. Have you got any feedback? Has anyone given you a positive or negative on reading it and if they enjoy it?
Oh, I've gotten mostly positive feedback. I don't think I've gotten any negative feedback on this particular book. Yeah, because it is written in several different forms, and so it's enjoyable for a reader. There's a lot of variety to it, and most of the essays have been published in literary journals before they were collected into the book. So it was really fun to put together these wildly different essays, but see how they all seem to be connected through this theme of creating one life out of many different lives. So I think that's what people really enjoy about the writing. It's taught in creative writing classrooms, I think because of that, because it does show the wide range of form that one can use to tell your own story.
That's exciting.
When you write short stories, I'm still trying to understand that more. I understand the big, long things, but how they're developed in the process of brainstorming and outlining and coming up with the research. Tell us a little bit about that process of writing short stories.
Well, at this point in my writing, I actually don't have a lot of intention when I sit down to write. I'm usually writing with other people. I'm writing with my students based on specific prompts or exercises. And so I'm pretty much writing just whatever comes to mind, maybe more of a, you'd call it a free write kind of mentality, and just seeing what comes up. And then once I see that I have something that seems interesting or I can articulate the theme that's coming up, then I'll start revising around that theme. And then if there's research involved, that's a great way to procrastinate on the actual writing. And so I'll research and find different facts or information that relates more, less for the actual information, but more that it creates a deeper metaphor for my work. So, for instance, I wrote an essay about this painting that I love by Franz Marc, and I was trying to get at why I love this painting so much. And that's usually the defining phrase is why, and that can keep an essay going forward for quite a while. And then I researched a little bit about Franz Marc himself, and he suffered from a lot of anxiety and depression, and his writing was a way to deal with that existential anxiety that he had. And I realized that when I was in love with this painting, I was going through the same things. And so I wouldn't have known that without doing the research.
All right. So I would say that you're striking me as a person who's very artistic, likes to consume just all sorts of different information, different ideas, and that's a wonderful thing. But when you're thinking of writing, what was considered a unfinished product that you left behind because maybe you came up with a better idea? Like, what do you do in those situations, and do you have any of those types of projects?
Oh, yeah, I've got lots of those. Yeah, a lot of writing, you're working on it, and it just doesn't seem to go anywhere, and so at some point you abandon it. But I'd say that none of that writing is wasted. I usually, probably almost all the time, end up using at least some of that material. I call it cannibalizing my own essays for new ones, and so little fragments might make their way into other essays. So, no writing is ever wasted. There's also several essays I've written that end up coming from 2 or maybe even 3 little pieces that I've written that didn't really have any good meaning on their own, but when I put them together under one essay, then they start to make sense. So one essay like that was in an earlier book, and it's about being in Oregon when Mount St. Helens blew. And so I had written that whole essay, but it really was just kind of an anecdote about being there. And then I had written another essay about being in Hawaii and visiting the volcano there and that experience. And so I put those 2 pieces together, and it became a real meditation on the passage of time and aging, and all kinds of things happened when I had those essays talking together.
Is it very difficult to merge, old works with creating new works?
It's not difficult. It's actually kind of fun. It's a technical exercise then. Again, you're asking why. Why do I see these 2 pieces working together? And you're coming up with a theme. So once you have that theme, then you can start knitting the pieces together through that theme by a certain phrase or an image that keeps coming up. So in my latest book, In Earlier Life, there's an essay called Dark Angel, and it's in 3 different sections. Those 3 sections were actually 3 separate essays that existed way far apart from one another. But again, they didn't seem to really add up to much on their own. But I saw the theme arising of, growing up as a teenager and feeling that kind of distress or maybe undiagnosed depression at that point, anxiety. And so by putting them together, I show that progression from childhood through adolescence of that sense of being lost and needing to find something that makes you feel safe.
Okay, where's the best place we can find information on you, learn more about you, and all those different things? Where can we go?
Well, I have a website. It's brendamillerwriter.com. and that has all of my book information. It has samples of my work that's appeared online. It has interviews with me. There's some videos that I've made, some video essays. So that's all at BrendaMillerWriter.com. And all of my books, except for one, are available on Amazon or at your bookstore.
Okay, well, thanks for calling. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Take care. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to Author's Corner, powered by Life Improvement Radio, live from the Mind Book Fair. We have to continue this conversation.
Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Life Improvement Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the expressed written consent of Life Improvement Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.